seismic news. Retirement of Jimmy Anderson. Grown men and women crying over this. Can't quite believe it. But to start off with, put into words a reflection on Jimmy Anderson, his contribution to England.
Well, Jimmy Anderson, can you imagine what it's like to be known as probably the greatest bowler a country's ever had? And that's what Jimmy Anderson is, comfortably that. I played in his debut game and he barely said a word. He barely said anything, actually. But then when the clouds came over at Lord's, he was unplayable. And you saw someone just develop. It took him a little while, about probably 4 or 5 years. And then as soon as he really sort of found his game, he went through that apprenticeship because he came in. He came in as a young man who played very little cricket. He was a real tearaway quick, actually. And he's gone on to be, he's one of those players that some people won't even have been around when Jimmy Anderson wasn't opening the bowling for England. And he's done every single thing in the game, certainly as far as Test cricket's concerned, which I can't imagine what that must be like, what that must feel like, to be Jimmy Anderson, the greatest bowler England's ever had.
How big a hole does the retirement leave you?
Well, it leaves a hole in many ways, really, because he's someone that no one is more skilled with the new ball or has been over the years. And also from what he understands is required at that level. That's the thing. We've got sort of really experienced bowlers, or we've got really inexperienced bowlers. So now we're going to go into a time where we're going to have, and we're not going to be all inexperienced. You've still got the likes of Mark Wood, Chris Wokes, hopefully Jofra Archer at some stage. But you're going to have guys that now have to go through that journey that Jimmy Anderson's been on. Now, they won't get to the heights of Jimmy Anderson. No one will, probably, with the way the game's going. But, now it's an opportunity for someone else, someone to fill. Sometimes it's like following a comedian who's just absolutely brought the house down, and everyone loves him. And now you've now got to take over and you've got to follow them. But that's an opportunity for someone else.
How difficult was it for you and the rest of the England management to try and approach, a fitting end to Jimmy's career? What conversations have taken place?
Well, so Baz, as people are saying, Brendan McCullum flew in from New Zealand. So we were talking about this, probably about when he came back from India. I said to Jimmy, we need to have a catch up. As we do, I always do appraisals with players. And the problem with that these days is that generally players are all over the world. So you're doing a lot of them on Zoom. But we didn't feel that that was the right way to do it with Jimmy. And when we made the decision and when we sort of thought, okay, we need to go and meet Jimmy and discuss the future, Brendan, we spoke about different ways of doing it. And we also, Brendan in particular, came to the conclusion that the right thing to do was to fly over to England. So the three of us actually went up to see him. Myself and Brendan caught the train up from London. Stokesy was in Manchester. He was getting ready to fly out to America, I think, on holiday for a family holiday, which then meant that we all met Jimmy in a hotel up near the station, actually. And we had a conversation for about an hour and a half, which Baz led. And, I don't think Jimmy was expecting it, but, I don't think it was completely unexpected, if you know what I mean. I think in the back of his mind, he sort of knew that the time was coming. And look, we discussed lots of different things as well, and the future for Jimmy after playing. And like a lot of these things, when you have tough conversations with people, I always think it's important not to make the decision about how you want to go out. So, we felt it was right that Jimmy, had a game to, the public and himself, everyone got the opportunity to say goodbye almost. Jimmy to say goodbye to Test cricket and for everyone else to show their appreciation, really, and be able to see him one last time. But, we didn't impress upon him that he had to make that decision there and then. And then not so long ago, he decided that Lord's game was going to be his last as well.
So did you say to Jimmy, we think it's time up?
Yeah, we just sort of said, look, I think it's time for us to move on. We're coming to a stage now where we've got to start looking towards the future. We'd had 2 years since we'd started the job. And then when you start looking, it's not just about the Ashes. When you start looking, we've got a big series. We've got 2 big series coming up, the West Indies and Sri Lanka. They're not to be taken lightly. then we go to Pakistan, then we go to New Zealand, then you're into a massive series against India, then the Ashes. So, people now need the opportunity to learn how to bowl with that new ball, to go through a day's worth of Test cricket, and then realise they've got to back it up the next day. And now's the time that people have to start learning that.
I know you're paid to make big decisions, and there's reason why plenty of reasons why you're doing your job and why I do mine, Rob. But I'm just thinking personally, how much does this weigh on you that you're part of the decision that brings a career like this to an end like this? I'm not being at all critical of them. I'm just, these are massive decisions, really, aren't they?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I always think that, I look back on fond memories really as much as anything on what Jimmy's achieved. Certainly in the last 2 years as well, he's been outstanding. And you always try and do what you think is right. You do as much work as you possibly can. You try and work out. There's always lots of different ways to go. And I just feel that this is the right decision. This is the right time. Hopefully he gets a fantastic end at Lord's. And then, like all things, life moves on. And, English cricket is going to have to do without Jimmy Anderson. That time was always coming at some point, and now we just feel is the right time.
And you share collectively as a management that decision, do you? Or is it led by anybody in particular?
No, we discuss these things. Generally, things in the Test team are myself, Brendan, and Ben Stokes. That's the sort of decision, the voting capacity of the Test team. And Luke Wright, who's been brilliant as well in this. You're trying to get not as many opinions is not right, but you're just trying to look at you're looking at every single thing you can, every angle, trying to work out what the best thing to do is, and this is where we got to.
I'm loath to ask you to go through names now as we look to an England attack post Anderson, post Broad. Still England finding their feet in that, but you've got a central contract list. Names I've got down here: Wood, Archer, Atkinson, Carr, Sam Curran, Potts, Josh Tong, Chris Wokes. Is that the group you look at now for this summer, and I've got just one bowler in mind here in Dylan Pennington, who seemingly has made a really good start with his time now at Nottinghamshire. From your point of view, do you just do with that group, or do you look at Pennington and think he's part of that group that you can use this summer? So things done now could impact the team in the next few weeks, few months.
There's opportunities for so many people now. That's why I'm so excited about it, really, because you're right. Like, Pennington has been excellent. We were speaking about him the other day. Luke Wright, who goes around and really, we all are across county cricket and the championship at the moment, but Luke Wright's really diving into it. And then we have a whole sort of analytics department who don't just look at how many wickets someone's getting, how many runs someone's getting. We look at the quality of those runs. We look at the quality of the balls that they're bowling. And we've got to make judgments onto which one of those is international class, which has always been the way in county cricket. You're always trying to work out not who can perform at that level, who can perform if they go up a step. And you want to try and get as many of those right as possible. Someone like Ollie Stone, it was great to see him playing and getting back to fitness. And what you want is, because there's a lot made now about pace, which is what you need, because it's very clear that actually in international cricket, if you're around 80, 81 miles an hour, generally, you're averaging around 30 odd with the ball, some of those guys in international cricket. That's whether you're an away bowler or you're an English bowler. But as soon as you get up to like 83, 84, 85, what I've got here, you're sort of getting to around 25, 26 with the ball. So it makes a big, big difference, that little bit of extra pace. And what we've really got to get good at in England, if you're a bowling coach, if you're a county, it's like, and you've got someone who's running in around that 80 mile an hour mark, how can you add a few miles an hour extra to those bowlers? And then it's about the skill, because someone like Sam Cook, he goes into the mix because he's so skillful, and we've seen him do it. You're looking at bowlers, what they do when it gets flat, because that's what international cricket wickets are. What happens when there's nothing happening? Can you create something from nothing? And someone like Sam Cook can do that. But generally, as a whole, the guys with that little bit of extra pace who can trouble you onto the back foot as a batter and make you think about the short ball, they're the ones that take the wickets. So at that level. So there's plenty of these guys that are just in and around our system now, some of them contracted. But it doesn't matter. Even if you're not one of those contracted bowlers, there's a chance that you could get ahead of all of them, really, if you show, it's not about how many wickets you get, it's can you show that you have the potential to go on and be an international test bowler or one-day international or T20 international bowler. That's why selection's so fascinating for us, because we try not to just look at the obvious data, the how many wickets you're getting. We got to look at, can you do it against Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, Bumrah, these bowlers if you're a batter? And if you're a bowler, can you get out the best batters in the world on pitches that aren't doing a lot?
I don't want this to turn into a Q&A and a long list of names, so I feel duty bound to ask about three of them. Ollie Robinson, 8 wickets so far from his 3 games. What were you looking for from Ollie at the start of this season? Have you in any way found it?
We're looking for Ollie. We've been pretty clear with Ollie that him at his best, when he's running in, he's attacking the crease, he's in rhythm, he's a very, very good bowler. When he's not, when he's down to sort of like 78, 79 miles per hour, he goes back into the pack. And there's other guys that do what Ollie Robinson can do as well. So that's what we're looking at with him. And generally, Ollie is someone, the more he plays, the better he bowls. But he's also going to have to find ways, I think, Ollie, of being able to, because we don't live in a world now where to find your rhythm, you get 7 first-class games before a test match. Now, that might happen in the summer, but actually we don't live in that world all the time in international test cricket now, with the amount of cricket that's going on, with the nature of the series, with teams being all around. I think when we get to the end of the summer, we've got the test team in Pakistan, and then straight away the white ball team go out to the West Indies. Then we start in New Zealand. So it's not straightforward anymore. So Ollie's got to find ways to find rhythm quicker.
A couple of players here that we want to see back out there. Jofra Archer to start with. Then I'm going to talk about Ben Stokes, which is a different story. But Jofra, we likely to see him. Some word that possibly he could be in a bit of action before the end of this week. Can you update us on Jofra?
Yeah, Jofra, there's a chance he might bowl in the innings in one of the Sussex second team games. I think they've got T20s coming up. So he won't do much more than that. And then we get him ready. He's been playing club cricket out in the Caribbean, in Barbados, where he keeps sending me the YouTube clips of his bat and telling me, after 38 minutes, that's when I'm batting, because I think he fancies himself up the order a bit. And we could do with him, smacking a few out of the park in the Caribbean in the World Cup. Yeah. So he plays that Pakistan series, and then we're into the World Cup with him. And then our view is that Jofra needs to build up basically robustness. That's what the thing is nowadays with fast bowlers or all bowlers. It's not about resting all the time. It's about just making sure that you're doing enough so that your bones and that your body is resilient enough for what's required to be a fast bowler. And then come next year, hopefully, fingers crossed, he starts playing red ball cricket again. And that's the plan for Jofra. So white ball for this year, and then into red ball and test cricket the year after that.
Do we see Ben Stokes and the Blackpool Tower this week?
Ben he was going to have a bit of time off, and then he didn't want to go to the World T20 because he also, a bit like what I'm saying with Jofra, is aware that for him to take a full role as an all-rounder, so playing as the fourth seamer and doing more than his fair share of bowling, he needs to again build up his body. It's just not a case, even Ben Stokes, as sort of indestructible as we always think he is, he needs to build up slowly and then hopefully peak at just the right time to go on and not have to worry, because it's not just about your back and your knee and the knee that he had operated on. It's about you just lose that bit of resilience and robustness that bowling requires. I don't think there's any other force you can put your body through like what it does when you bowl. So then he just needs to build up into that again. So play for Durham.
His coach up at Durham, Ryan Campbell, was on a couple of weeks ago, and he said he likes what he's seeing from Ben Stokes with his bowling. What reports are you getting back so far from Ben on that?
I know Ben in particular is feeling for the first time in quite some time that he's bowling pain-free and is able to bowl almost, straight away into his top-end speed. And he's not sort of having to go through pain barriers all the time to do it. So I think he feels liberated by the fact that the knee operation's been a success, and he feels that, he can now look to this part of his career being able to do both things, which is always a big thing for an all-rounder. It's one thing if you're just batting, you feel you can't. If you fail with the bat, you feel you can contribute with the ball. And if you take one of those away, it becomes a trickier game for all-rounders.
So encouraging news from Ben at the moment, and just take it easy over the next 5-6 weeks ahead of the test. He's got to be patient because they've got T20 coming up as well as Championship. Will he play in T20 matches?
Sure, if he's going to play T20 matches, I'll have to. Well, these are things I'll leave to him, Durham, and Baz, and him to come up with a bit of a plan. But one thing with Stokes, he's pretty much across what he needs to do, and he'll let Durham know.